Welcome back, episode 3. We're going to talk about the leaky bucket problem. So here's the truth. Most companies, they lose renewals through pure sloppiness. I worked with a company doing $35 million in ARR. They had 81% retention. They could not figure out why. So I asked, who owns the renewals? Sales said customer success did. Customer success said sales. And finance, they just said, well, we just track it. Nobody owned it. Renewals would come up and sometimes someone reached out, sometimes no one did. And sometimes the contractors, they withered on the vine. They just expired or the customers stopped paying. There was no system, there was no accountability, and revenue, it was leaking everywhere. We fixed it, but it took us about 3 quarters. Retention went from 81 to 89%. It was the same product, it was the same customer. We simply stopped the leaks. How did we do that? We laid down a few foundations. So we'll talk about those foundations now. Foundation 1 is establishing clear ownership. Every renewal needs an owner 120 days out. Not sales because they're hunting, not finance because they are calculating. It's the customer success or a dedicated renewals team that is responsible. A company I know, they work with creating what is called renewal specialists. And these people, their only job was to manage the renewals in the 90-day window. Retention went from 78 to 91% in 1 year. Why? Because every renewal had a focused owner. Foundation 2. Build the early warning systems. You cannot fix a problem 30 days before renewal. By then it's too late. You need to spot risk at 90 days minimum. Better still, even 180 days. So what does this mean? You do what is called health scoring. Green, yellow, red. Simple. The green customers, they renew at 95%. The yellow customers, they renew at 60%. The red at 20%. So you know how to focus your energy. Score every customer monthly. Focus your team on yellow and red accounts. One company did this and found 23% of their customers were at risk 90 days out. 23%. So they went ahead and built intervention books. They saved 55% of those at risk renewals. Overall retention jumped 8 points in 6 months. So let's talk about Foundation 3, which is more of creating the structured timeline. 120 days out, what do? You assign an owner. 90 days, you do a business review. 60 days, you create the proposal. 30 days, you follow up with the customer. 14 days, you get a final confirmation from the customer, and then you're done. It sounds rigid, but structure prevents things from falling through the cracks. One company implemented this and discovered that they had been losing renewals just from bad timing. They were reaching out too late. And so the customers had already decided not to renew. They moved. They moved away. So when you engage them sooner, then the retention will improve significantly. There are 2 key takeaways from this session. Assign a single owner to every renewal at 120 days out, and that accountability alone stops a lot of the leaks. 2, use a health scoring system to identify at-risk renewals 90 days early when you can still save them. Waiting until 30 days is just too late. So next time, what we'll do is we'll show you how to forecast these renewals with the same precision you forecast bookings. You will predict retention within 2 to 3 percentage points. That is when you can really run the business. Don't miss it. I'll see you soon. Looking forward to part 4 on forecasting renewals like a pipeline. New concept, but it works.